we've had there's a perception in the community, and it's still perpetuated now, about uh, guns in the Black community potentially begets more violence, potentially begets more shootings. How do you how do you have that conversation with someone that says, well, if we have African American or Black gun owners, that just brings more guns into the Black community, which will only lead to more violence? How do you have that conversation with someone? Quincy, I'll start with you, then I'll go to Colin, Stephanie, and then Chad.
Well, in our organization, we bring in the history of the traditional Black arms. So we give the quick overview history lesson of why firearms were essential in the Black home or the Black community. So we talked about during the civil rights movement. We even talking about during slavery. We even talking about post-slavery, and we know that's how we have people out there right now, or organizations out there trying to paint a picture, a broad brush of our entire community of to paint us as a certain type of people and things like that. So what we do is we just bring in the facts, and we bring the historical facts of it, and then and we break it down that way. And then we try to educate our people with more of the history, the gun laws, and then we also give people the hands-on training as well, so we could break that stereotype, or break that make that judgment a lie in a way. So,
and I think you hit it on the head, and that is the first part, the most critical part, is you start with historical context as well as follow up with information. So absolutely. Colin, I know you're down in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a little bit, I know you grew up in New York. Atlanta's a little bit different here in Chicago. Kind of how do you have that conversation, or how would you have that conversation if someone were to pose that to you?
Well, I tell them, there's plenty of guns. There's plenty of guns in the United States. It's part of our culture, right? And, the percentage of crimes that happen with guns are so small compared to the number of guns that are in this country, that it's not the gun, right? So I think it's pretty unfair to say that.
We're losing you, Colin.
Yes.
I think we lost you. Your audio faded out.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
You still sound a little bit stifled.
Okay. All right, give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to come back, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, we'll come back to you. Stephanie, how about you? Because you've been in a couple different states with, I don't want to say lax, but very open and different gun laws as it relates to some of the other parts of the country, with you being in Florida and also in Texas. How do you have that conversation, or have you had that conversation around, about the additional, or the perception of additional guns into the hands of Black gun owners and Black community, and the perception of increased violence? Let's see, Stephanie, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm back.
Okay, not a problem. So the question was, you come from a couple different states, several different states, from New York to Florida to Texas, where the gun laws are definitely different.
Oh yeah.
One from one to the next, but then also from other parts of the country, so to speak. How do you have that conversation with someone that may say, putting guns, because they see they see violence on television or in the news, or the perception that there's this Black on Black crime? How do you have that conversation with someone that says, if you put more guns in the Black community in the hands of Black gun owners, this could lead to more violence? Have you had to have that conversation, or how would you have that conversation with someone moving forward?
I mean, I just show them the example. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm from a state that has one of the toughest laws. So you can't say we're out there putting guns in the community, and we're not training our people up there, but yet there's already a significant amount of gun violence. So that completely negates that. So once I've negated that, we go into the facts and the true what it is, and dispel that misconception. So I don't take too long on that one.
Okay, great. Colin.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
We got
All
you.
right.
You're back. Welcome back.
So
We'll have a sip to Colin.
so
My
it's
man.
to say that more guns equals more gun violence is really it really doesn't make sense, because we have to look at what causes violence in the first place, right? Or what causes people to commit crimes. So it's like the 5 whys. We have to ask why 5 times to get to what the root cause is. And if you did that, you'd find that the root cause is there's a lack of hope and there's a lack of opportunity. So when you divest from communities and you take social services and good health care and good food out of a community, what's left, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be violence. So to blame it on a gun, it just doesn't make sense to me, because there are plenty of guns in the United States, and the percentage of gun crimes are very small compared to the number of guns that we have in this country.
Okay. Good. Chad, now Chad's in Detroit, Michigan. So a completely different perspective than some of the other, not perspective, but situation than some of the other states that we just discussed. So Michigan, Chad, you're up in Detroit. How would you have that conversation with someone, or have you had to have that conversation with someone?
Yeah, I have. I think, so far the answers are fairly accurate in terms of, obviously you have to deal with the history, right? At one point, we could not read, we could not vote, we could not carry guns. The fear was that if Black people were allowed to read, they would want to be free, drapetomania, right? So when you look at it from that perspective of you want to prohibit something you want to prohibit Black folks from doing something that you're able to do, because you don't want us to be able to do the things that you do or be equal to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way when you look at it from a historical perspective. But I think another way to do it, and what I've been finding myself doing a lot lately, is working backwards. When I say working backwards, I mean look at what the desired end result is and peel back the different layers that it would take to get to that end result. So you want less violence by firearm, right? All right, so let's take away the guns. What happens if you take away the guns? You'll have violence by another mechanism, right? You'll have knife violence, you'll have acid attack violence, you'll have beatings, whatever the case is, as you've seen in a bunch of other different countries, right? Or people will still commit violence by firearm, they'll just have them illegally, all right? So if you look at that piece of it, if you take away the guns, then you're not dealing with the violence piece of it. And then you work your way back to all the upstream issues that some of the things that Colin mentioned, right? Some of the socioeconomic pressures, some of the political disenfranchisement, and things like that. And I won't say that it's simply those things, but I think it's a confluence of those things, right? Meaning it's a confluence of all of those socioeconomic pressures, the political disenfranchisement, and the lack of education. There's also when you have people who are having idle time in terms of not having the opportunities, as Colin mentioned before, then guess what? You'll have that. There was an experiment. I don't want to say an experiment, but the city of Houston, in order to reduce violence by firearm, one of the things they did, they began focusing on some of those socioeconomic issues, the political disenfranchisement, the education, jobs, right? And they were able to see a reduction in firearm violence over that period of time, where they added some of those things or began dealing with those things as a public health crisis. And it proved again that the problems dealing with violence are way further upstream than it is before you get to a piece of metal or plastic.
Right. And I think it was Colin that touched on the 5 whys. You kind of have to ask, what are the contributing factors that lead to this increase, not increase, but just the violence in and of itself. Mm-hmm. But then also, Chad, I think you brought up a great point, and that is violence will come in the form of some mechanism, whether it's firearm, whether it's via beatings or acid, whatever the case may be. If you don't have, you're going to find a way to take. And if you are a violent person, you are going to be violent by whatever means are afforded to you. So